it's worth pointing out, everybody at this seat in some way or another related to small business, all of you guys have participated in getting a small business off the ground. I come from a family that my father was small business the whole time. He's still doing that. So I think we all realize that aspect. It's different. You know, when you're a part of that family, or if you're doing it yourself, it's a different way of life. It's pretty much all of your life. Just starting off, tell us a little bit about the small business bill.
Yeah, there were many of them. There were several bills with regards to regulations. Many of them I actually broke with my party and voted with the other side because a lot of it made sense. But one bill in particular that I really liked, being someone who started several small businesses, allows for the Commonwealth to waive certain penalties and fees if in your first 2 years as you're opening up a startup, if you've missed a filing deadline. So you still have to pay whatever you're liable for, but the penalties and fees can be waived, because Lord knows sometimes at the beginning when you're starting up, you don't even know that there are certain filings. So it wasn't a huge bill, but I thought it sent a strong signal. If you recall that bill that we talked about on the floor, sent a strong signal to small businesses, hey, we get it, you're just now starting up, we need to do more to empathize with you.
So really just fostering, allowing people to get going.
Yeah, I think that's important. And we had a couple of other bills similarly that help even young startup entrepreneurs, even as they set up their LLCs or their corporations, finding innovative ways of getting that paperwork done quickly.
And there's another topic that we want to discuss. It's kind of a tough one, but this is one that anybody who lives or works here in Virginia, they know. Opioids, it's been a real struggle in our area, and it's one that can affect everyone at different ways of life. And the government has been involved, state government especially, for funding, trying to combat this and just trying to offer resources for people. What was accomplished this year?
Well, first of all, I've served on the House Committee on Health, Welfare, and Institutions. So all of the opioid bills come through that committee, and anything having to do with healthcare comes through that committee. We got a briefing the first week of session from the Secretary of Health and Human Resources, Bill Hazen, and brought in the Commissioner of Health, and a lot of different people came in and talked with us. We were there for about an hour and a half, getting the information. It was really chilling to learn how bad the problem is, and it's particularly bad here and west of here. But it really is a systemic problem, and what they kept trying to drive home is, who pays for this? And the answer is, we all do, because it costs in so many different ways. It's extraordinarily expensive to get the appropriate treatment, and there's several things that we're working to help get people off of the opiates and into drug treatment programs. There were programs that one of the sheriffs came and has a program. I'm sorry, I can't remember the acronym for it, but we made legal what he had been doing, really sort of skating on the edge with just in desperation, to try to get people that are coming through the jail systems that are needing to get into a drug treatment program to have a way that they can actually come back if they're feeling tempted to fall back off the wagon. They can literally come back to jail voluntarily, and they're doing it because they don't want to be. They don't want to be on it. But you get all the pull for the addiction is so strong that you get off of that and you get back into the community. If you don't have some sort of a support system around you, you'll not make it. You'll go back to the drug and you'll end up being dead. We've lost a lot of lives, and it's tragic, and it crosses the entire socioeconomic spectrum. I didn't realize that it was as bad here until close to 10 years ago, I guess. My company, we started drug testing all of our applicants. It became a standard that was a requirement in our industry. It's amazing how many applications we would get and get ready to hire somebody and they test positive. You can't have that working for you. You simply can't have that. I mean, as you know, Baraka, you mentioned you've got some folks, I think, that you've had to.
Yeah, we've certainly dealt that within our organization, and the challenge is the opiate use in certain instances. affects communities that with lower incomes, and it spreads through other communities of immigrants perhaps that are first arriving and don't even have a clue what some of these drugs may do to their lives, or the fact that it's going to literally turn their lives upside down and they may not be able to get jobs or be able to serve in certain functions. That part of the benefit that Virginia really has taken the lead on when compared to other states around us is that there is a cultural awareness that is being created or spearheaded as part of how we address the abuse of opiates. And Valencia itself, as an organization, we are supporting various drug centers and counseling agencies and looking to be part of that community effort that it takes to make sure that we're bridging not just the language gaps that may be associated, but really the cultural framework that is necessary before you can even begin to treat a person. If the challenge is that immense with English speakers, just imagine how much more so when you're dealing with a person from a different part of the world that has no idea how to relate to the community itself, whether it's in healthcare or government agencies. And so folks are being arrested or they're being, taken into long-term, treatment centers that could have been avoided if we had the cultural framework behind it. So I do think, personally, I'm grateful for what has come out of Virginia. And there's a lot of initiatives that are now being put forth that my organization is supporting, and we look forward to continue working with different agencies and healthcare organizations to sustain this effort.
Absolutely, it's a big issue that we're going to be working on for a while. It takes a lot of time, resources, and funding. While we're still all here together, we have one more topic that we want to talk about, constitutional amendment, correct?
We finally got it through on first resolution. Amendment that I have carried, this is the third time that I've carried it. Prior to that, Greg Habib had carried it. Prior to that, Morgan Griffith, before he went to Congress, had taken it 3 times. The idea is to give the legislative branch the ability to suspend regulations through a bureaucracy, particularly if they're causing harm or if they're out of step with the underlying legislation. Right now, we'll pass a bill frequently and give the framework to an agency, and then they promulgate the regulations that are what really affect people. And oftentimes, one of 2 things will happen. They either will just never get around to promulgating new regulations, which happens, that should never happen, and it happens more often than you would believe. Or what they end up putting out there really doesn't have any resemblance to the intent of the discussion of the legislation that was underneath them. And yet, right now, there's not much we can do about that. And we get calls, I get more calls from constituents that are dealing with an agency that's doing something, following some boneheaded regulation, and they'll want us to be able to do something about it, and we really can't right now. We don't have the mechanism to do that. And so what the constitutional amendment says is that with a majority vote of each house, or, starting with that, with a majority vote of each house in a resolution, not needing the governor's signature and not giving the governor an opportunity for a veto on it, it would just be, we could nullify a regulation and say, you know what, guys, the law is there, but you guys got this wrong, so stop it. And we've never been able to do that before. In addition, it would give the opportunity for a commission to be established by general law that would have the authority in our absence to take that action until we got back into session again through the next session. So it really is pretty groundbreaking and could really sort of, I think, roll back some of the overreach that a lot of these bureaucracies have, because those bureaucracies and this mindset goes across governors and administrations from both parties over the years. They just stay there and go on and on and on with it. So it's a first step. A constitutional amendment is very, very difficult. What has to happen is it has to pass both houses in 1 year, and then you have to have an election, like we will this year. And then next year we have to bring it back for the second resolution, and we cannot change 1 word of the resolution. Then it has to pass again, and then after that, if we're able to do that, it will go on the ballot the next November, and the people of the Commonwealth will get to vote as to whether or not they want it there. So.
Well, and being someone who's currently trying to convince a state agency that I'm a female-owned business, female Nobody debates it, except the agency that we tried to tell I was a female trying to own a business. Close to my heart. My question would be, like to Sam, is this something that the other side of the aisle supports, doesn't support? If they don't support it, tell me the other side of it, so that we can have, right? So we've heard from Chris, who sponsored it, and someone who's been affected, but I'm not, I want to understand, like, it sounds good, but I know there's always two sides, so tell me about the other side probably.
We've had a lot of kumbaya thus far.
Have we? A lot of holding hands and loving each other?
But this specific issue is kind of tough. And who spoke most eloquently to it was a Republican who's more of a constitutionalist, Delegate Marshall out of Northern Virginia, spoke against this bill because it's just strife with all kinds of constitutional problems. Number one, you've got, it upsets the apple cart as far as balance of powers. Number two, talks about a commission coming in. What would that, the commission, our commissions, we even have non-legislators on commissions right now. What would that actually look like? You have a non-legislator who might impact a regulation overriding the executive branch. So I just think that there are I, as a small business person, we have power. We can call a special session if we want, number one. Number two, we control the purse. Number three, we can always come back here every year and pass very specific regulation that forces an entity to do something, or through the budget if we need to. I think it's just, listen, when we're talking about amending the Constitution of Virginia, that's a very serious thing. I share your frustration where certain regulations are not followed, or there's ambiguity there, and that needs to be addressed. But when you are talking about upsetting the potential balance of power in the Constitution, that's something very serious that we really need to take a good hard look at.
Yeah, and I think that's smart. I think that this is the way government's supposed to work, in my opinion, is hearty, healthy debate about important things that impact people's lives. And that's what it sounds like is going on, that it's not easy to get passed, that it shouldn't be easy to be passed, and there should be this debate that's going on.
That's got to be one of the #1 complaints from a lot of business owners I know. Regulations, just the red tape of getting things done, expanding or doing things differently.
Well, at the same time, I think that what often, in my experience anyway, what happens is we have a certain experience and we blame it on another outcome, and somehow the two get married to, just use that against a certain party or another. But in this case, and I don't know what Lynda's experience was, but I can almost bet my left leg that her not being considered as a female business owner had nothing to do with what your various sides may be. I think that that's a breakdown that, in communication somewhere or in a certain delivery of service from another agency. But listening to the two of you explain your stand on this, when I went through the same process that you just went through to get your minority-owned or woman-owned business, I was trying to get a minority-owned business certificate. I did not have a single problem with it, but that was, 6, 7 years ago? So it's possible that just the change in circumstances have added to the measure of frustration that you're experiencing. But I love this, the healthy debate that we see it in Virginia at least, because in Washington, oh my goodness, it gives such a negative bad taste.
So a good, when he went and did his, there was a Republican governor. There's a Democratic governor now, and you're experiencing frustration.
Yeah.
Okay, throw the Democratic governor out, vote for a Republican governor. Change the executive branch, the leader of the executive branch. Don't change the Constitution and upset the balance of power. You do have a voice in who you can put in.
Did I just hear you say what I think I
did.
heard? I believe if you get
That's the way it's supposed to
Well,
work.
and I think I think there's a systemic issue in the situation when we can't get callbacks, and we can't, in other words, when it's not just regulations, in my opinion, or with my experience, it's almost the customer service level of some of the agencies not returning that, because I can assure you, Sam, my friend, the Democrat, did not mean to elect a Republican governor next time. But just as I love these kinds of discussions, and you guys coming in here today, I feel very honored and privileged that you both did this for us, because I think these are the type of discussions, with business owners, with somebody that from the news that is educated and did a lot of research, and you taking the time. This is how we're going to make Virginia a wonderful, healthy place for people to want to do business in, and for venture capitalists to go, look, I'm going to start putting my millions with the companies in Virginia. So, that we reached the desired outcome, I think, today that I was really looking for.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good conversation. We probably might get additional comments or questions. We hope to have you guys back sometime. But thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Of course, we have Virginia at Work on WFXR News Sunday nights, Monday mornings on Good Day Virginia. And Lynda, where can we get more from you and what you do?
Oh yeah, you can absolutely always go to our Cortex leadership page. We're going to be beefing up Virginia at Work. I'm missing Beck. I miss you so much. We got Bill. And
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah, this first day, I was like, oh, we're going Facebook Live, we're doing a podcast, we got 2 delegates, we got a business owner.
No big deal.
No big deal.
Getting it done.
Free camera. Hey, new day at Virginia at Work. So.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. Thank you guys.